Well, good afternoon and welcome back to the 660 Club, still the one place where you can meet 6 game-changing startups in 60 minutes with slightly more structure than a presidential debate. Whether you're back in the office, still stuck at home, or if you've relocated to Barbados for the next 6 months, you're in for a real treat today as we bring corporate innovators together from around the world to explore ways in which you can enable innovation in your company. If you're new to the club, let me introduce myself. My name's Jeremy Bassett. I'm CEO of CoCubed. And at CoCubed, we're passionate about helping corporates to work with startups. Here's a 30-second overview of what we do. Well, at CoCubed, we have the unusual privilege of working with many of the world's largest corporates, and we see the good, the bad, and the ugly of corporate innovation. So we wanted to make 660 a place where corporate innovators could come together to learn from other corporates, to see case studies of what others are doing, to understand how they can champion innovation in their company. And we also wanted to expose you to the latest tools and technologies that can help you bring innovation to the way that you deliver innovation. So this term, we're going to be continuing the journey of innovating innovation. Last month, we looked at the topic of how can you inspire innovation within your company. And we heard from Vodafone how they're cultivating community right across the organization and inspiring everyone at Vodafone to innovate. Today, we're going to be exploring the topic of enabling innovation. And then next month, so on the first Thursday of November, we'll be looking at tools to help you scale innovation. And then in December, we're going to be looking at how you can fund innovation. So we're really going on a journey this time. If you missed out last month, catch up on YouTube. It's all there. And of course, we'll share a link to today's a recording from today's session with you right after this as well. But if you've got case studies yourself or examples that you'd like to share, then we'd love to hear from you. So do let me know, and we'll try and make room for you to join a slot here at 660 as well. For today's session, we're focusing on the second leg of that journey, and that is how do you enable innovation across your corporate? As you know, corporate innovation leaders, you have one of the most interesting jobs in the world, but you've also got one of the most critical jobs in your company right now. But the one thing I would say is that it's not easy. And when you're driving change every day, it's like pushing water up a hill. As US President Wilson said, if you want to make enemies, try to change something. And that's exactly what we're doing as innovation leaders every day. So to make open innovation happen, you have to find great startups. You have to manage those startups, you have to onboard them, and you have to share learnings from across the organization. And today's session is all about that. And hopefully you'll be introduced to solutions that you can put to work tomorrow to help solve some of those challenges. So here's how today is going to work. We're going to kick off in a minute with some insights from Skylab's Managing Director, who you'll meet in just a moment. Then you'll hear quick fireside pitches from 4 innovators who are specializing in solving different parts of that value chain I talked about. And then finally, we'll move into the networking zone, where you can find out more about the solutions you've heard here today, tap into insights from other members, and of course, ask questions of the speakers and meet other members there as well. If you want to see more details or request a meeting, you can also go to the expo booth right after this, where you can find out more, click connect, and chat to the founders there as well. And of course, throughout the event, please do use the chat bar there on your right. Say hello, make comments, ask questions, and the CoCubed team's on standby to help you out. So let's do this. It's my privilege to introduce our guest speaker for today. He works across the UK, Italy, and Germany to improve digital capabilities at Sky for the Sky's customers and employees. Managing Director of Skylabs, please welcome Lucian. Lucian, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
Good stuff. So, Lucian, why don't we start? Tell us a little bit about your role and how you're driving innovation at Sky.
Sure. So Skylabs is a new innovation center within Sky. We have been running just going up to our first anniversary. So we're just completing our first year.
Happy birthday.
We're a team now of, thank you. We're a team now of about 20 people, and we try to help the business both solve business challenges that are very real business challenges right now, but also help drive a culture of innovation within the business, or continue to drive a culture of innovation within Sky.
Two important jobs, and obviously vital at this time. And the media industry has obviously been undergoing systematic change for a couple of decades now, with the rise of the internet, online, on demand, etc. I mean, COVID seems to have fast-tracked all of that. Talk us through how is Sky, or how has Sky responded, and what's been the role of the innovation team in that?
Sure. So, I mean, I guess Sky was founded based on innovation, as many companies were, but it's you know, at the core of Sky is this idea of believing better, which is a great sort of brand value that drives innovation every day. So, I think one of the things that we've had to be really careful in creating an innovation center is we really don't want to be an innovation center that says this is where the innovation happens. Could everybody else just chill out on the whole innovation thing, because we're going to take care of it now? Because that massively disenfranchises 30,000 people across Europe who are basically innovators. And I think, you know, we've been saying that since we started Skylabs. And what's most fascinating about COVID is we basically asked 30,000 people, as so many other companies did, to innovate in terms of how are they going to do their day-to-day job, how are they going to live their lives, how are they going to connect with friends. So what's been amazing is how much innovation has happened at grassroots level. At a macro level, yeah, there's big changes in the TV industry. So obviously the rise of streaming and Netflix and Amazon Prime and those sort of things. And that's something that we've done as well. So we launched a product called Now TV several years ago, which has been tremendously successful and is an OTT streaming proposition. But equally, we see it in other behaviors. So something like a project that we were involved in early on in Skylabs was around the viewing of sports. So, you know, people love sports, people love the Premier League. And one of the things that we saw is that they want the sort of 90-minute experience of the Premier League, but they don't have 90 minutes to dedicate it to these days. So what they do is they go onto YouTube and find a 12-minute clip of the highlights. So thinking about something that's really precious to us, like presenting the Premier League incredibly well, how do we adapt that to a world where people's attention spans are slightly different, or the time available in their life? And that was a fascinating 4-week project that we did with people from the UK, from Italy, from Germany, and football fans from across all those countries and all ages. So lots of those sort of things, a lot of projects at the moment around diversity and inclusion. We are, crucially in Skylabs, we are not a high-tech innovation team. We are not sort of doing sort of lasers and stuff. We're doing anything. We're doing, you know, people problems, process challenges. Sure, we'll do product and technical innovation as well. But a lot of what we do is around teams reinventing their values, their organization, their mission. So those are the sort of things that we've done over the last few months.
Amazing. And obviously you've got a physical presence at the office there with Skylabs, but then with COVID, you've had to move everything virtual. It sounds like that's been a real opportunity for you rather than a hindrance. Do you want to talk through how you've made the transition into virtual and how that's going?
Yeah, it's interesting because when we first set up Skylabs, we sort of went on a tour of innovation centers around London, and an awful lot of them were very, very high tech, and they had their sort of their touch screen, and you put your post-it notes on a touch screen, and then you dragged it over here and that sort of thing. And we sort of we rebelled against that because we couldn't find one where the technology didn't at some stage break down. So our Skylabs offices in West London look very much like your background, Jeremy. An awful lot of post-it notes. Yeah, we sort of had a daily delivery of from Amazon of new post-it notes, and we found that the energy of people in the room, the energy of people getting up and writing and drawing. We did things like we banned PowerPoint. In fact, we had a sign at the entrance to Skylabs which says how many days we had since our last PowerPoint incident. We got up to 64 days at one point, and then somebody messed it up when I was on holiday, which was very, very annoying. But Obviously, with COVID, we couldn't do that, and it was fascinating to see how the team reacted, because we had one very, very high-profile project that had been live for 2 weeks, and then we went into lockdown, and the second 2 weeks had to be virtual. And credit to the team, they finished the first couple of weeks on the Thursday afternoon, and they started up again on the Tuesday morning in virtual mode, and they figured out what tools they could use, and we successfully completed the second 2 weeks of the project. Very successful project. And yeah, we just found the right tools. And so, I mean, broadly, it turned out to be pretty simple. We have two tools that we use. One is Microsoft Teams, and the other is a product called Miro. And those two together, broadly, we can do everything we want to do, and most of what we were doing in the room. We've had to adapt some things. People can workshop, I think, a lot longer physically than they can virtually. So,
Yeah.
we were doing 6 hours a day of workshopping in the office, and we can probably do 3 or 4 virtually. But fundamentally, you're doing the same things in a virtual world. And we have in our team a lot of great energy creators and diverse thinkers who can inject that energy into the teams that we bring in.
Yeah, so important. Shorten the sessions, bring the energy, and then some good tech tools there to help with the process too, by the sounds. Lucian, obviously a lot of the companies here are needing to build organizational agility, and a lot of the CEOs are looking to the innovation leaders to help drive that culture. Obviously, it's what you're doing and have been doing very successfully over the last 12 months. What are your top tips to other innovation leaders that are looking to drive this culture transformation and build agility into the fabric of their company?
So I guess there's a few things for me. One is I fundamentally don't believe that innovation centers should own innovation. The business owns innovation. And we have a sort of philosophy for Skylabs, and right at the top is our belief that everybody is an innovator. The natural human state is an innovator, but people get trapped by process, by organization, by hierarchy, by budget, by the requirement to put their idea in the right font, in the right PowerPoint slide before it gets taken seriously. So a lot of our work, we're not the innovators. In fact, we don't even call ourselves innovators. We call ourselves innovation coaches. Our job is to liberate that natural innovation in 30,000 people across Skype. So that's the first thing. The second thing that sort of follows on for that is a lot of innovation centers got stuck in return on investment. How are we measuring, something like the sports example that I came up with, that I talked about earlier on, that was come up with on a little tiny Post-it note in a workshop back end of last year. Hundreds of engineers have written code against that. Dozens of designers have designed it. Loads of testers have tested it, and marketeers have marketed it. So how much credit can we really claim for something that goes to market? And the truth is we shouldn't. We can talk about catalyzing it, but the benefit of the ROI equation is there are two sides to it. So one of the first questions I was asked when I set up Skylabs is, what budget do you want? And my answer was, I don't want a budget. As soon as you have a budget, you have to do an ROI calculation, because your denominator grows. If you can keep your denominator low, you don't need that money. Money is invested where the business priority is. So leave the money with the people who understand the business priority. And the third thing I'd say is just the diversity of the team. But this is a real balance. So I don't think you can necessarily take all the people from the corporate world and say, suddenly you're innovators now. And equally, I don't think you can take a load of wacky people externally who are diverse in their thinking and behaviors and bring them in. You've got to have a balance between those two. Otherwise, you create an innovation center that sort of spins off into the ether on its own and nobody takes them seriously. So balancing those two things, and crucially, not being particularly precious. Whatever book you read is going to tell you this is the way to do innovation. But there's another stack of a dozen books which will tell you a different way. So just be very magpie-like and pick whatever is most appropriate to the business challenge you have in front of you, and use that. That would be, I think, what I've learned over the last year. But I'll learn a dozen different things over the next year, so I can tell you that.
No, I love that, and it resonates a lot with my own personal learnings here. But to try and recap, I love this approach of decentralizing innovation and really empowering the masses. Your job of removing the bureaucracy from this, and I mean, it's a very bold move to remove the budget as well, because you're right, there's a lot of bureaucracy and challenge that goes with budget, and putting that back into the business. And then diversity, absolutely critical. And then this idea of, I guess, sort of strong beliefs but loosely held. I like, be more magpie. Let's finish with that one. Lucian, thanks so much for joining. I really appreciate your insights, and all the best with driving Skylabs forward over the next year as well. An exciting year ahead, I'm sure.
It's been a pleasure, Jeremy. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now it's time to dive into the pitches from our innovation specialists. These are intentionally fast and furious, just 4 minutes each. They're designed to give you a short introduction to each of the different solutions that we're going to be exploring. And then, of course, you can head over there to the Expo Zone where you can ask questions, dig deeper, and continue the conversation. So let's jump in with our first pitch. And today is all about enabling innovation. And that means finding the right solutions to your business challenges. Traditional scouting can take a long time and it can also be quite expensive. So here with a solution to disrupt the innovation industry with an affordable 24-hour service from GoPartner, coming live from the studio. This is a first for us over the last 6 months. Please welcome Mark Janes. Mark, over to you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Look at that, seamless. Amazing. It's so good as well to be in the land of multicolored Post-it notes, and also to hear your thoughts, Lucian, and your learnings as well. There are so many things that get in the way when it comes to innovating at corporates and enabling innovation and making it happen. Lucian touched on so many in his opening remarks, but there's the sign-off process. It can feel risky, it can feel overwhelming, expensive. So we set ourselves a challenge. We said, what if we could solve this? What if we could make this process so easy? What if we could make it easy for a corporate to engage with startups around the world? What if we could encourage that diversity of thinking? What if we could make that also cheaper, faster, and better? So we created GoPartner.com, and the next slide goes through the Go flow. The Go flow is very simple. One brief from you, one brief from the corporate. And what I loved about Lucian and what he was saying is that we can enable, we can put this in the hands of people across the business. This doesn't just have to stay in the innovation labs. It can go across those throughout the business. But it's one innovation challenge, one brief, one space or kind of area that you want to look for solutions. And then in 24 hours, we will curate 10 game-changing startups for you. So overnight, you will receive an email full of surprises and 10 game-changing startups. But what actually is going in that inbox? Well, the next slide looks at what you get. There's a market analysis and innovation overview, which sounds very confusing, but really it's just an overview of what's going on around you. A chance for you to kind of take a step back and look into the future. Then you've got your stack of your 10 game-changing startups. And if you really like what you see, you can take that conversation forward. And then you get those details ready for your database. So it sounds pretty epic. One brief from you, in 24 hours, 10 game-changing startups from us. And it's super cheap as well. So the next slide just gives us an overview. You share your brief, swipe your card, and get 10 scouted startups in your inbox. So for 660, we're doing it for $495. We set ourselves a challenge, and I want to set you a challenge. Think about your innovation challenges. Think about a brief. Come and find me in the Expo booth, and we can go through it together and upload a brief at GoPartner.com.
Lovely. Look, from the live audience.
One clap.
Mark, obviously it's hugely disruptive process and changes the game when it comes to scouting. What's the ideal brief for this sort of thing?
The ideal brief, I mean, it sounds simple, but it has to be a brief, a problem, an area that you want to solve. We've had people look at their supply chain. How can they be more sustainable? How can they automate a process? But Lucian tapped on, it doesn't just have to be lasers and crazy technology. It can also be processes and how can I make my job even easier? So we take on loads of briefs and challenges, but make sure it's a problem that you want to solve.
Okay, brilliant. There we go. Thanks for joining us live, Mark. Great to have someone here in the office as well. We're going to stay on the theme of Marks our next pitch. So you've used GoPartner. You've found interesting startups. You're in contact with them, but how do you manage them all? Well, a powerful tool to help you manage, stay connected, and keep ahead of where your startups are at is Kite. And from Kite, please welcome Mark. Mark, over to you.
Thank you. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're sitting. And thank you, Jeremy, for hosting this event, for sharing Go Partner Scouting, and for your partnership, because CoCube isn't just scouting Kite for all of you. They're actually a power user of Kite. Love the Go Partners model there, because it's driving cost out of scouting and really putting speed in. And the way that you can actually even speed it up greater is by digitizing it. And that's what Kite does. So before Kite, every consultancy, like every other consultancy, Jeremy and Mark and others would share spreadsheets and PowerPoints to you by email, and your work would begin. And now CoCube, and now you can be next level. They send you Go Partner reports on Kite, Rails, and you're ready to go. You can easily add the scouted startups to your network, share effortlessly across your organization, as Lucian was mentioning, in terms of it doesn't sit right in one center of excellence, and monitor progress by any dimension. I'm Mark Silva. I'm founder and CEO of Kite, the next generation startup ecosystem management platform. Let me show you how Kite streamlines your startup activities in 4 ways, right? First, next slide, please. When you centralize all your data from your APIs, your startup program applications, new opportunities from the business units, et cetera, the briefs that Mark was talking about, new opportunities emerge, period. We automatically add company data from Crunchbase, Clearbit, Owler, and SimilarWeb to give you a more complete and real-time view of any startup. And when you add your own tags, filters, and workflows over the companies, all these dimensions become instantly discoverable, reportable, and shareable across your enterprise. Next slide, please. Kite is a smarter way to manage your data and research. So number 2, we make it easy to package all your data and insights and then share those reports with stakeholders to amplify your value and to accelerate outcomes. You might be using spreadsheets, email, and PowerPoints and existing CRMs, and those simply will fail you once you start to scale these efforts. Let me give you an example. When TechCrunch Disrupt, the leading startup competition, imported 5,000 amazing startups from the past years into Kite, they were blown away by how easy it is to slice and dice the data, find insights, top performers, and hidden gems. Next slide, please. TechCrunch considers Kite a smarter way to see and share data. So number 3, we create cross-functional visibility by aggregating relationships and research across your company. For instance, TechCrunch is just a small business unit within the broader Verizon media empire, and yet it projects a vastly larger impact by sharing its data. And you can do the same. Your organization probably has multiple teams scouting external partners and zero insights into what the other teams are doing. It's madness. So let's fix that. The next slide, please. Kite enables better collaboration and outcomes. So the 4th way we help you is we allow you to connect with ecosystem partners exactly the same way you work today, but on Rails. So you can build and expand your scouting network. A lot of our clients say they came for the platform and they stay for the ecosystem. So right now you can get multiple startup referrals from consultants, accelerators, and VCs. When you use Kite to receive it, for instance, the 10 Go Partner recommendations from CoCube, these startups live in your private group where you can add new data like your team's ratings of each company. Next slide. We built Kite alongside of the leading Global 2000 innovators like Visa, EY, and P&G. If you remember only one thing, Kite, startups, ecosystem, easy. Isn't it time you put this platform to work for you? Please visit our virtual booth for a quick demo, or better yet, ask CoCube for a Go Partner report on Kite. It's cheap as chips, and it's instantly actionable. I'm Mark Silva from Kite. Thank you.
Love that, Mark. Mark, it's an amazing platform, and obviously we've been working together since I was at Unilever, and now working with you today at CoCube. Talk me through though, what is the ideal client for Kite? Like, what sort of enterprises should be using Kite?
Yeah, it's amazing. I should call you a co-founder. When you built the Unilever Foundry, it was literally almost like the architect of architecture of what we're doing here. So ideal customer, we're seeing a lot of sectors that are getting disrupted, such as the retail, hospitality, CPG, et cetera, and fintech, et cetera, that are desperately looking for startup innovation, which is why you're seeing such an influx of activity with the Go Partner program and others. Those are the ones that are incredibly successful. I just want to touch on something that Lucian spoke about. He talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we're all talking about here in the States and I'm sure around the world. We like to say that even as you're working on the future of things and how to drive your business forward, you have to engage the heart as well. And these DE&I programs are actually an amazing way to start on your startup innovation area. So not just what sectors, but what kind of activities you go after. And we think that's an amazing opportunity for innovation because it doesn't just have to accrue value. It doesn't just have to accrue to people who look like you and me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining. I realize it's very early in California right now, so we appreciate you logging on, sharing Kite. And of course, if you're here interested in Kite, please do check them out in the expo booth. You can ask questions and you can also see a live demo in the booth as well. It's an amazing platform, and I'm sure it's got a lot of potential to turbocharge innovation within your company as well. But Mark, thanks so much for joining. We'll jump into our third pitch today. So we've looked at how do you find companies with Go Partner? How do you manage them with Kite? The next one is how do you onboard them and create a more seamless experience for the companies to actually integrate into your company? And a key barrier that we often find here is the legal side of things. And so to simplify legal processes and to make it easier to onboard companies from a legal perspective, please welcome Nicole from Logix. Nicole, welcome to the club.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. So, very happy to be here, and I know I have just a little bit amount of time, so I'll try to not talk too fast. So Logix has been actually building our technology and our reputation for about 7 years now, and we're really proud today to be serving companies of all sizes throughout the globe. Not sure if all of you are familiar with our technology, but just to kind of give you a bit of a brief introduction, we're an AI-powered pre-signature contract acceleration solution. So our clients are actually using our technology to automatically approve contracts according to a playbook that they build together with us. And a playbook is basically a pre-approved company policy summary that the AI uses to review and mark up the contract. So the market really recognizes us for better, faster, and cheaper contract review in the enterprise market, now more than ever in the past even. I would say, you know, it's a very proud, big accomplishment that we raised an additional $20 million during COVID-19. So I think that's another big sign of the future as well of legal technology in that space. Next slide, please. So as Director of Customer Success here at Logix, I wanted to give a few tips how to drive a strong partnership with a new innovation provider. So first off, I think one of the most important things is really to make sure that you're providing a clear understanding of what your business goals are when you're purchasing the tools. I really can't identify how important it is to convey your pain and convey what you're trying to solve. And I think it's even more important to understand from the service provider, what's the complexity of the onboarding process? Being clear around milestones, who's the owners, what's the timing of those things happening. And then I would also say, you know, developing together joint success criteria. And this for me is, you know, one of the key things that I do with each and every one of my customers as we onboard them. Let's move to slide 3. So here's just an example of, you know, a joint success criteria slide that I've put together with one of my customers. And I think the most important thing around joint success criteria is really choosing specific goals to measure the progress and success of the implementation. And when you're choosing those goals, to choose goals which you can clearly measure them. So you have a baseline and you have, you know, an end state that you want to reach. And I think by having those measurable KPIs, you can really emphasize your return on investment at the end of the day when you need to go back to the person who gave you the money to buy this tool. So I just have a few examples here in the slide of a customer that I recently onboarded, where we were talking about becoming a strategic partner to the business and providing accurate and consistent markups for them. And then, of course, reducing time spent on reviews. So really working together, on the onset of the relationship to develop these metrics and support each of the criteria that you create, I think is an excellent way to kick off a relationship and make sure that it's going to be, successful and have clearly aligned expectations between both sides. Next slide. Just wanted to give you guys an example, of one of the companies that we've recently onboarded and has had a successful implementation, Data Robot. I think we're very proud of this case study of an enterprise AI customer of ours. They actually came to us during the pandemic, and they found that they needed to shift their onboarding to maintain, workload capacity despite reductions in their legal team because they had to take some headcount reductions. And that said, especially during the pandemic, they saw logix as critical for helping them deal with their workload. So we were really seen as a way for them to do more with less resources. And I think another thing that was really successful with Data Robot was the fact that we set up a very integrated workflow with Salesforce, and we were able to embed ourselves into their processes. So that really helped remove any manual involvement on the side of the customer and really created a streamlined workflow. So, overall, we were able to cut time and costs as well dramatically, which I think is, a huge success from our perspective and then from theirs as well. So it's a win-win situation. So those are just a few of the tips from my side.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
You've talked a lot about onboarding. I mean, this is an amazing opportunity to go from, 120 minutes down to 5 minutes per contract. I mean, that's incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's involved in getting set up on this? How long does it take to get
That's
going?
a great question. I think one of the things that I love about working with logix is that, we're really low-hanging fruit and there's zero change management. I think one of my customers said, no learning involved. And I think that's a huge factor that enables us, the playbook setup is the main part of onboarding. And it usually takes around 30 days and it could be even less depending on the customer, the complexity of the playbook. But we're really able to come in, show value quickly, and be that low-hanging fruit for the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Catch up in the networking and expo zone right after this.
Thanks.
Okay. So you've found your startup, you're managing them through Kite, you've onboarded them with logix. The next challenge, of course, is how do you coordinate knowledge around this? And how do you enable everyone to collaborate with the companies and with each other? Well, a company that is solving that is Haifa. It's a brand new startup. And from Haifa, please welcome Arpit.
Thanks, Jeremy. If only we knew what we knew. Hi, I'm Arpit Kaushik, the CEO of Haifa, a company addressing the 200 billion pound problem that most organizations suffer from. Incredibly precious knowledge is dispersed and disconnected across virtually every organization today, unavailable and unusable to most of the teams that are looking to innovate for their customers. Next slide. In countless conversations with our customers, we've heard some version of the statement, if only we knew what we knew. We are solving this problem in a revolutionary way with the Haifa cloud-based platform using a philosophy we call forest thinking. Haifa is different from other approaches to solve this increasingly mission-critical problem for three key reasons. First, most other approaches are essentially search engines that can be bewildering and unhelpful. They also assume that people know what they are looking for, while at its heart, innovation is a process of discovery. They also make people learn language in a new format and can make things cumbersome by making people sift through all the options before finding out what's relevant. Second, our forest thinking approach helps solve these problems by making sure that knowledge is organized in the same way as people understand their world. It very quickly becomes familiar and easy to navigate through. Third, we enable people to connect knowledge in meaningful ways to inspire the aha moments that teams looking to innovate need. Next slide, please. So here's the essence of what we do: putting knowledge in context and connecting it all together in meaningful ways to inspire breakthrough thinking and create those moments. Next slide. Here is how the Haifa platform works. We start by working with the client team to create an ontology or a map of how their people see the world. This creates the context in which knowledge can be captured and it can reside. Next, we surface and seed the content with the existing knowledge from both internal and external sources. And once they are up and running, the platform makes it easy for people to find, share, and use knowledge and uncover new insights and intelligence. Next slide. Our team is composed of innovators, strategists, and technologists who have worked together for many, many years. We are all driven by our mission to unlock the power of innovation within teams. Today, we are already working with a global brewer in creating a common organization culture, with a top insurer in Latin America to help them make sense of trend signals and trends that drive product innovation, with a European innovation agency to help them manage their portfolio of innovation projects and align them with their strategic objectives, and with a global research agency to help them collaborate and identify gaps in knowledge and capabilities. At this stage of our company's growth cycle, we are looking for 8 to 10 forward-looking clients to do a joint pilot with. These are clients who would be willing to think and do things differently, and to them, we promise our extra effort to create something amazing for their teams. Normally, our platform is priced at 15 to 50,000 one-time setup fee and £25 per user per month. But for these pilot clients, not only will we do the pilot at a deeply discounted rate of £5,000 to £10,000, but we'll also allow them to influence our roadmap and create features relevant for them. So come to the booth to find out more and help us, and we can also show you how we can help you connect the dots and accelerate innovation. Thank you.
Done, Arpit. This is a very interesting solution, and it could be quite a game changer and a great invitation there as well for corporates to go on this journey with you and to build something that is right for them and hopefully scalable for you as well. I'm interested though, one of the quotes you had there, what was it? If only we knew what we know. Unilever, we used to say, if only Unilever knew what Unilever knows. And I thought it was a Unilever quote. And then I worked with Mars, and at Mars they said, if only Mars knew what Mars knows. Like,
okay.
It's talk us through Haifa. Is this a one-size-fits-all solution, or it's custom built? How does it change?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, because we debated that for many days, because we are a SaaS platform, so that by its definition means a repeatable, scalable solution. Right. So one size fits all. But then we realized at the heart of what we do is making sure that knowledge is represented in a unique way, the customer's way. And even though there are patterns, each company sees and understands things in a different way. So that's why the ontology or the map that we create in the front, that makes it specific to every client. So it's a best of both worlds, bespoke and SaaS.
Okay, fantastic. Very good. Well, look, thanks for joining us. And like you said, please do continue those conversations in the Expo Zone and networking right after this. There's a great opportunity there for some lead adopters to also join on your journey as well. So thanks to all of our 4 speakers for those pitches who have hopefully given you both a bit of inspiration, but also some practical ideas to help you enable innovation in your company. Before we move on to the next part of the event, just a quick reminder that our next session for innovation leaders is on the 5th of November. we're going to be looking at tools and processes to help you scale innovation. So we've gone from inspiration to enabling innovation to then scaling innovation. We'll send out an invite to that session right after this, so it's in your diary. And for those of you who work in marketing, retail, or mobility, we're also running 660 sessions focused on those different topics over the next few weeks as well. In fact, next week, we're going to be hearing from Jane Buck from Unilever, who's going to be sharing her experience of driving innovation from a brand perspective at Unilever. So you're more than welcome to join any of those sessions. And of course, this is also a great opportunity to invite colleagues that might be involved in marketing or retail along to those sessions as well. Okay, you've heard from the pictures. Now it's time to head over to the networking and expo zone. In the expo zone, you can connect with the companies that have presented, find out a little bit more about them as well, and talk to them. And then you can also go to the networking zone, where you'll be on a forced rotation for a few minutes, where you can connect with different members of the club. There's lots of great members in here, by the way, and I'm sure you'd all love to connect with each other. So please do make the most of that. It's a lot of fun, and you will never get stuck in an awkward conversation at 660. So make the most of that as well. And lastly, if you've got any suggestions for how we can make these sessions even more useful to you, then we'd love to hear your ideas. Please shoot me an email, and let's talk about how we can make 660 even better for you. So right now, thank you for joining, and I'll see you in the networking zone.